then they'll be able to get more money for the property. The problem with that is it could end up being a huge waste of money. The last thing you want to do is spend all of your hard-earned money on a rental property just for it to end up being a huge headache for you. It doesn't have to be this way though. In this video, we're going to rank the top 3 mistakes you can make when you go out to buy your first rental property. And also, if you're looking for more tips on how to buy rental property, be sure to hit that like and that subscribe button. The mistake that comes in the number 3 spot is only buying in areas that you would be willing to live in. A lot of first-time investors make this mistake. They only want to buy in areas that they themselves will be comfortable living in. The problem with doing that though is a lot of times the areas that we feel comfortable living in are more expensive. Think of it this way, if you're more comfortable living in this area, chances are a lot of other people are too, and that would put a premium on the price. So in other words, you're going to have to pay more for that property. Now, if you have to pay so much for a rental property that your rental income isn't going to be able to cover your monthly expenses, then that property is not going to be worth it. And chances are a lot of other properties in that area are going to have the same problem. Let me give you an example of a property that is in a good area but may not be a good deal as far as investment purposes. Alright, so let's use this property for example. Here we have a 2-flat for sale in Chicago for $519,900, and this is in a pretty good area in Chicago, in Portis Park. This is a pretty safe neighborhood. So first let's look at the rental income that's coming in from this building. We can see there's a 3-bedroom apartment that's renting for $1,500 a month and a 2-bedroom apartment that's renting for $1,000 a month. So this building is pulling in a total of $2,500 in monthly rental income. Now let's look and see what the monthly expenses would be as far as the mortgage would go. So I pull up the mortgage calculator with taxes. To get here, all you have to do is Google mortgage calculator with taxes. And I've already put in the info. You can see I put in the home price. Let's just say we get $900 off. So we get the property for $519,000. We do a 10% down payment. And here I put in the property taxes. And we can see we'll have a total monthly mortgage of $3,665. So as you can see, the monthly rental income isn't nearly enough to pay for the monthly mortgage. It's almost $1,100 short. And this isn't even including the rental expenses that you're going to have for the building, which they're going to pop up no matter how updated that building is. You have to remember that as a real estate investor, especially as a first-time real estate investor, you have to look at it from the mindset of an investment or business standpoint and not from the mindset of buying a single-family home that you're going to live in forever. Remember, the property doesn't have to be perfect from that aspect. You're not going to stay here forever. Even if you're looking to move into one unit and rent out the other one, this isn't a permanent solution. So make sure that you get a building that is going to provide you positive cash flow instead of one that's just going to give you a lot of expenses, even if it is in a great area. Coming in the number 2 spot for the mistakes to avoid when looking to buy your first rental property is always trying to do the biggest and best updates. A lot of real estate investors think that if you just put the most expensive stuff in your home, like for instance, you have the most expensive appliances, you put the fanciest countertops, the most expensive faucets, trim, stuff like that, then they'll be able to get more money for the property. The problem with that is it could end up being a huge waste of money. Once again, you have to remember to think about this from a business standpoint. While of course there's nothing wrong with updating the property, be careful not to go overboard with it. This can actually hurt you in 2 ways. First, you have to remember that tenants will not take care of your property like you would or like an owner would. That means that for all that expensive stuff that you're buying for that property, chances are the tenant's going to break it. And guess who's going to be stuck with those expensive repairs? Second, you need to keep in mind that tenants tend to pay more attention to where a property is located than to how upgraded it is. So for example, let's say you have the most expensive upgrades in your property and you want to rent it out for $1,300 a month, whereas similar properties in the area are renting for $1,000 a month. Now, when a tenant sees this, they're either going to choose the cheaper option of $1,000 as long as the condition of that place is good enough, or if they do have the money to afford your property, they're going to tend to look in more expensive areas and not in your area. All those expensive upgrades is actually making it harder for you to find a good tenant for your unit, which is not what you want. All you need to do is take a look at similar properties in the area, see how updated they are, and just follow suit. Do the same thing. There's no reason to reinvent the wheel here. Now, for the number one mistake that investors make when buying their first rental property is not screening your tenants. Your tenants are the most important part of your rental property. They're the ones who are going to be providing you that monthly income and making sure that you're going to be able to pay your expenses for that building. I don't care how wonderful you think that property is. If it has bad tenants in it, that property is going to turn into a real problem for you. That's why it's so surprising to me that so many landlords, even experienced ones, will let tenants in without screening them at all. They'll just let anyone into their building as long as they say that they can pay for the rent. I can't tell you how many horror stories I've heard of landlords, even experienced ones, just taking recommendations for friends or family members, or even letting those friends and family members move into their building, move into their properties, only to have them not pay and then have a hard time getting them out and being stuck with all the expenses in the meantime. Then at the end, you're stuck with not only paying for those monthly expenses, but you're stuck paying for an eviction as well, which could take months to complete. That's why you always need to make sure that you're always screening your tenants, always do a credit and a background check no matter who that tenant is. If they don't want to go through that background check, it's usually for a reason. I've already made a video going more in depth on how to avoid bad tenants and stop them from getting into your property, so click on this link to learn more.